Hello, beautiful people. Be most welcome to today's episode of COVID Around the World. This show is all about bringing real people from different backgrounds and different countries and ask them to share to you what are their views and perspectives about this pandemic. I'm VH, and here's our guest of today.
It came more or less at the same time as in other countries, probably a bit earlier, and with address where you are going, from where you went, and how you're going to do, and when are you going to come back. The modern society, I often express really extreme opinions. I say that society is mainly not healthy.
So Vahagn, for the people that don't know you, please introduce yourself. Who are you? What are you up to?
So my name is Vahagn. I'm from Armenia. I'm an artist by profession, but I have been doing many other different things since I graduated, and I'm now mostly involved in ecotourism development in Armenia, but also things that relate to it somehow. For example, there is trail development, exploring trails, building trails, then doing some educational projects, which are for bringing the knowledge about ecotourism, about the infrastructures that are needed for developing ecotourism in a country like Armenia. So to bring the knowledge about all this to the communities where we work. And it's been already 3 years that I was doing this with different organizations, local and international. And right now we are kind of stuck. Trying to do some stuff which can be done online, but of course, when it comes to hiking or exploring a trail, like a hiking trail or some other trail, or doing a training face-to-face and then going for an outdoor hiking and training session, that's impossible.
Yeah, not much online there. So where exactly you are in Yerevan at the moment, correct?
Yes, I am in Yerevan at the moment, not very far from the center. I live in a busy district near the bridge, which is called Hrazdan Bridge. There is a river Hrazdan flowing in like 200 meters on my backside. And it's one of the biggest bridges in Yerevan. It's a nice location. There are a few parks nearby, and it's a really nice place to go for a walk, but not these days, because these days we're not allowed to just go for a walk in the park.
So where exactly the governmental measures that are in place right now in Armenia?
Yeah, it's called self-isolation. Most of the people call it quarantine, but as far as I know, in case of quarantine, it's more like the state takes full care of the people who are forced to sit home, basically. But this is kind of something in between. You know, there are some compensation, some projects, like more than 10 projects. They are with certain numbers: first project, second project, third project, and there are many. And they are for giving money to people with different conditions. Depends on how much in need the people are, or what part of the society, what jobs did they have and they lost. So depending on all these factors, this governmental support is being given, but it's, of course, there's no comparison to how it's being done in other countries. Like if to compare the amount of money, for example, that is given in Germany and in Armenia, there's nothing to compare. But still, it's something.
And how fast was that support given? Is it very bureaucratic, or is it mainly to the people? Is it directly to the people? It goes through the companies? How does that work?
Surprisingly, the state was pretty quick and also effective in cases when the support was actually given. For example, my wife got some money and it took like 2 or 3 days after the online application, and it goes automatically. So if you work with some type of how it's called, when you're not as a physical body but as a legal body. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The state has all the information on your bank account and so on. So when you apply and say, I'm doing this, for example, I do tourism, and this was my income for the last, say, 3 months, last part of the year 2019, then there is some counting and there is a limit to that, how much you can get compensated. Yeah, and many people got this compensation. It's about 250 euro. I would say average is like 200 euro, or maybe less. The average is less than 200 euro what people were receiving, and that's one-time support.
A one-time payment.
One-time payment, and I didn't receive anything. I'm still
Uh-huh.
not sure if I'm going to receive or and how much it's going to be. Approximate counting shows like I could receive about 200 euros, but most likely I'm going to receive the half of it.
Okay, so you spoke about Germany. So to have comparison for people who don't know the reality of Armenia, what is the minimum salary and the average salary over there?
I won't remember the exact number, but I think it's something like 100, no, about 200 euro or something. 150 euro. I can check that actually. The minimum, and
Yeah.
the average goes probably more than that. But you know, there are many people that get even less. I think not everyone works with open tax system, so a lot of people are involved not officially, and they don't show their income and so on. And in every country, it exists. Yeah, Armenia is no exception.
Yeah, of
Just
course. I
like the
mean,
social level in general is pretty low.
yeah.
So an average European or a Western citizen in a developed country can afford probably staying for longer without much money, earning much money, because there are some savings. But in Armenia, it's different.
Yeah, for people live more day by day, month by month, kind of
Yeah,
life.
many
Yeah.
people exist like that.
Yeah. So the government support will allow them to live almost a month, and in some cases, and that will be
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
There is this other thing that is probably a plus in case of Armenia, that people still live, many people in big families. Of course, it's changing with time, but the people kind of support each other. Like if you are even an adult, that
It's more community based than
yeah, so
individual based. Yeah.
yeah. You had some earning and then it stopped. You can go back to your family, and somehow people support each other. It's not so much like in case of European countries where people separate and live separately for a long time, and then it becomes a bit harder to just decide and go back. Probably. So what I can think of, like based on how much I know European people.
Yeah. And what about the people's reaction? So, for example, when was you mentioned the self-isolation? Was that a recommendation from the government, as I understand? And when was that? And how was the people's reactions? How did they take it well? Was there discord? Were people questioning the governmental measures? When were the borders closed, etc.? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm trying to remember the dates. It came more or less at the same time as in other countries, probably a bit earlier. It's already about like more than a month that we're in this self-isolation. And we had, and we still have, those two different groups of people. One group of people says it shouldn't be this much of isolation because we don't believe in it. We don't believe in the need of it. And then there is the other group of people which are saying there is not enough isolation, or the measures are fine, but they are not kept so well, which means I personally sit at home most of the time because I believe it's necessary, even if many conspiracy theories are going around, and like people tend to believe to this like really snap news, and because they want to hear those kind of news. I still think that even though I'm not sure what's more real, what's less real, in like absolute terms, I know that it's much better, much safer to keep the rules as much as possible, and then we can judge afterwards. We can remember and say, oh, maybe we were too extreme, and maybe we shouldn't have kept all the rules so much. But at the moment, most of the people cannot say how objective the media is. Everyone knows the media likes to lie a lot, and media does lie a lot, and it exaggerates a lot of stuff and so on. But on the other hand, it's dangerous to just decide, okay, I'm not going to believe in this, and I'm not going to self-isolate and so on.
You mentioned the media. Does Armenia have free media, or most of it is controlled by corporation or state?
I worked as a journalist for about 5 years, and my experience was that I had pretty much freedom to say anything. It's the other question is like, what does it give? So we had growing movements since, I don't know, 20 years, anti-governmental movements, environmental movements, and so on. And one of the reasons I decided not to be a journalist anymore was that I had to either be a journalist or do stuff. Then, yeah, I kind of sensed what journalism can give, but it wasn't enough. I was like, okay, I speak a lot, but what does it change? So the people don't really believe in journalism, especially now with this huge amount of fake media, which is really depressing. And when you open social media and see what's circulating there, you see the amount of people who believe in this or that kind of thing, which is not normal information. It kind of depresses, and you see that for normal journalists, it's not very easy to get the message to the right address. At the same time, also many big media companies like to manipulate stuff. So I would say it's a big mess. And compared to the neighboring countries, probably we have definitely not less than them, like Georgia and Azerbaijan and other countries in the region who have pretty free media.
Yeah, so relatively to your neighbors, you feel you're pretty good then. And when you mentioned the financial support that the government was giving, are the people happy with that part? Not only the measures, but the closing measures of the economy. But are people happy with that?
Definitely, the amount of money cannot make people happy. For some people, it might matter, because if they had no money at all already, of course, this was a moment to be happy for a while. The closing measures, hard to say what amount, but when I see that sometimes about 80% of people commenting on stuff say really stupid things, that then I think, okay, so these people are probably also among those who don't like the measures, who don't like to keep any rules, they don't like to queue in a proper way. We call it like a circular queue, when everyone is in one place and you cannot understand who to follow. And this tendency in society is something that really gets on me. I don't like it, and I think there are more people who don't respect rules than people who respect rules. So it means more people are probably not happy with the measures, but they have to keep them because there are fines against that. Also much less than in other countries. So the support we're getting is less, the fines we're getting are less, and so on. But every time we went out, because we live near the bridge, there are policemen on both sides of the bridge. So they, every time, only 2 times they didn't catch us. They didn't ask questions, but all the other times.
So there's a big control by the authorities then.
I wouldn't say big. It's kind of like, you know, here is big, there is not so big. Some people complain about no control. Some people say there's too much control. I think because it's not really well structured, and
I see. So the perception is different based on where you are,
yeah.
what you're doing, the times, etc. I
For
see.
example, every time I go out, I know I have to fill in the paper. It's like you decide the size of paper, but there is information that is given by the government. There is a sample. You can print it out or you can write by hand. And there needs to be with pen, not pencil. The first days we didn't know, and we had pen, pencil, and once we almost got fined. But then it's not even clear if it's definitely should be pen or pencil. But so when you see there is a risk, you just say, okay, I'm gonna write with a pen. And when you write your hour, it shouldn't be too much, like 2-3 hours maximum. And with address where you are going, from where you went, and what are you gonna do, and when are you gonna come back? All of this has to fit. If it doesn't fit,
yeah, so for you to get out of the house, you need to have a written paper by you, I assume,
yeah.
saying where you're going and how much time are you taking.
And it's you also should have an ID, a passport or an ID card. I took my ID card every time. It's smaller. You put in a plastic, and to make sure that if someone is infected, we don't keep, spreading it, or we don't get it. We put it in a plastic bag, and when the police stops, I say, please keep away, like 1 meter or something. I show it like this, and so he sees that, and then we continue our way.
See, and how do you perceive this? Like, do you feel your freedom is under jeopardy? Do you think it's a necessary evil? Let's call it. How is it your not rational? I'm asking more the immediate feeling when you feel that control.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask about my feeling, it's definitely extreme. It's something really extreme. I would never imagine living like this for a long time. And if this is going to be the new routine of the planet, from one point, yeah, okay, so it makes people safer and so on. But you ask not the rational one, this is extreme. If this keeps going like this, it's unbearable. It's going to have very bad consequences in terms of social society structure. It's going to change the way the society existed until now.
So what are the next steps? Is the government clear and communicating what are the next steps when you are getting out of this self-isolation state, as you called it? What seems to be the light at the end of the tunnel?
It's too early to talk about the light at the end of the tunnel, because the economy wasn't already so good, and it's now, of course, in much worse condition. What we're going to have is more unemployed people, more unhappy people. The only hope that I have is my generation is a survival of the post-Soviet, as I like to call it, post-apocalypse, like little post-apocalypse. The post-Soviet was like an apocalypse in a way, because no one believed before. Like my father never believed that Soviet will end. Their mindset was like the Soviet is kind of like forever. At the same time, they knew, like he's an economist, he knew the Soviet cannot survive for longer. So there's this dilemma. And we survived that period. It ended, and we had much worse conditions than we can imagine now. Hopefully now we're not going to get even close to those conditions, when we didn't have electricity at home. In winter we had only 1 hour electricity for the whole 24-hour cycle. We had no heating, nothing. And I remember in my house once there was like -5 when I went to sleep inside the house. So those kind of extremes we overcame. But now the new generation doesn't know about this. There's already a lot of people.
So when they compare, especially the older generation makes a comparison with the past, and they have a positive they have a positive understanding, because they know how hard it was, and they know that even if it is going to be hard now, it's not going to be as hard as it was before. And the new generation doesn't have that concept. Therefore, they complain more, or they feel worse. How would you classify it?
Yeah, what I see, and the social media is a good indicator in that. I try to
Mhm.
keep my circle of friends in social media diverse, so to kind of know what the society is talking about, what the society feels like, and so on. And what I feel is many representatives of much younger generation, like let's say those in their below 20s and then between 20s and 30s and then above 30s. So I'm 43. Most of them, no, many of them have a problem of entertaining themselves in a self-isolation. Like, okay, so what do we do? And all these jokes, all the humor of these days shows it pretty clearly that for some people it's really something so extraordinary that okay, you're home for many days. What to do? What to do? Let's do something stupid. Let's do something funny. Which in my case isn't so much like that. And I feel like I'm compared to many of the people I know, I'm much more how would say, mm, kind of like I like my free loneliness. I like to be at home, do stuff, and so on, and it doesn't really bother me much that I have to be longer than usually to be sitting home and work from home. Also, I'm a freelancer. I'm used to this kind of lifestyle. So I would
Yeah.
say there's a clear difference between the way the freelancers and a bit elder generation perceives this situation and how the youngest perceive.
Also, as a little bit a joke, because I feel the same. It's very appalling to me, or weird, let's call it, when I see a lot of people that they are at home and they say they don't know what else to do. They ran out of
Hmm.
movies, etc., etc. And for me, it seems like it's just another day.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
uh, but and I shared one meme on social media that was the world right now, and everyone was fighting, and one person with headphones, and it was like gamers and introverts, because
I
I
saw
also
that
like to
one too.
get.
Yeah, I
Yeah, you
saw a
saw
few
that.
of those. Hmm.
That was. I think it describes very well. But I yesterday I was talking with a friend, and I was surprised with how much time passed since I'm isolation. I
Hmm.
wasn't aware of the amount of time. But
Hmm.
as a final question, and I think this for me it's the main one, is the one that I really would like everyone to debate and to think about it.
Hmm.
Um, I I think we have an opportunity now. I don't know if we're gonna take it or not, but think we have an opportunity as on a local level and on a global level to reinvent our society and also our personal lives.
Hmm.
Um, is this something you agree? And if yes or no, please share why and in which areas.
Hmm. Yes, I completely agree. I think generally when I'm asked or when there is a chance to speak out about the society, the modern society, I often express really extreme opinions. I say the society is mainly not healthy. Let's say very soft way. The society, global society, is not very healthy. About the local society, I would say even in more extreme terms, like it's really ill society because of the contrast, because of the intolerance, because of not welcoming many different opinions, not willing to kind of tolerate difference of opinions. And I also understand the situation, this type of situation, as some kind of enforced measures by God knows who, say nature or virus or some conspiracy theory, people behind conspiracy theories, whoever did this or however it happened, it's a good chance for the societies to rethink many things and to do something about it. Because really, like before the situation started, I remember myself often during just normal conversations, joking and saying the planet needs less people. I'm afraid to remember these things because sometimes I feel guilty for that. I was like, yeah, well, if we want
I,
the planet to be fine, we need to get rid of people. And like a month after the last time I mentioned this, the situation started changing. You know, it's um,
Yeah, so it was your wish of controlling overpopulation that created coronavirus. Now we know
It's
the truth. We know it was you.
Well, talking about the overpopulation. Recently, I had a conversation with one of my friends who said the planet can sustain even bigger, like much bigger amount of people. It's not about the amount of people; it's about the way they organize. And
Mm.
I can agree on this because whenever I traveled, I always was amazed by how much space is empty, how my space could accommodate a lot more people. Like in my own country, everyone is kind of focused on Yerevan. Everyone is coming here. Most of the population is focused in Yerevan. It's not good in any ways. There's no air to breathe here. Now there is.
Yeah, of
But
course,
normally,
I completely
normally.
agree with you. And in terms, it's an interesting topic because I did have the opinion that the world was overpopulated. And then I did a little bit of research, and yes, it's about organization. It's not necessarily the numbers, but of course, like I want to stress, because we're not going to discuss this topic. I want to stress to our viewers that
Mhm,
of course I agree that the planet is not only ours. There's a lot of species, a lot of animals, and me as a
mhm,
vegan, of course, I have all that notion, and it's not about that. But although like it's an interesting topic, but and it will take a while to develop. But I did see a few designers, urban designers, explaining how the fields and how the cities and locals could be organized in a way that is not
mhm,
necessarily overpopulated, but of course our habits, what we do, the traveling, the
mhm,
consumption of animals, of course, that makes the
mhm.
planet not livable for us.
Yeah.
But tell me, you were saying that you agree with the reinventation of society. You mentioned even social media, the extremes.
Mhm,
It's funny that I do the same. I try to have my group social media friends
mhm,
very diverse, so I can understand, because they to fight the algorithm of only showing the things you agree with.
mhm.
So is there anything in specific, and for example, you work in ecotourism. Um, do you see people being more interested when they do tourism, more aware in the near future to the impact they have when they travel, for example?
Um, well, now it's an extreme situation for people who are more or less well off or were well off, and they could still enjoy some comfort of the isolation. And I think, among them, I had still some money collected, and I could survive without much stress. But there are people who really learn to need to earn on daily basis, and I cannot imagine. I don't want to think about what kind of problems they face now. So this means this could be a great chance for people to rethink, to kind of restart and so on. But for many, it's not. For many, it's even more stress. It's even more things to think about, and it's even more vague features. So um, that's pretty scary, also in my society. And I mentioned why, because of the social level and so on. But in general, I agree that this kind of situation is a great chance for the global society to rethink about the ways we treat the planet, the ways we entertain ourselves, the many really weird ways of entertainment. For me, sorry to sound like labeling or something, but going to a bar after long working day, sitting in a bar with full of noise, where people smoke inside, this is something I am not doing for many years already, and I cannot understand people who do it. And to think about this way, this being one of the ways of entertaining yourself at the end of the working day, for me, it's madness. But the society is used to this, and many people don't question much, and they just need to socialize, and kind of like the socializing energy pays back whatever they might not like. And this is just one example. I can mention many more, and I think I agree that the society needs to reorganize. The society needs to think about completely different ways of also traveling. Probably, maybe more local travel should be supported to save more air for the future generations, to fly less, and so on. And I would be completely okay to be a tour guide, in ecotourism tour guide, for people who came just buy food. So it can be people only in my country. It wouldn't make me unhappy. I would be really happy to know that now I'm getting maybe five times less money for the service given to locals who have less money, but I'm saving the money or the resource of the future by this, and that's for everyone. And if everyone did this at their home, serving the locals more and buying local food and not forcing some tired guy to drive, I don't know, 500 or 1000 kilometers one day to bring me a very similar type of apple from really far away, this would be much better for me. And I dream about this kind of society. And these days I started writing my series of essays about the future of humankind. I call it like the future city or something like this. And I sit in front of computer and think, how would I want this or that thing to be in future? And I just type it out. I type it out and then I look at it again and kind of like I build my dream society in my mind, and hopefully one day at least some of that can become possible.
Are you posting that online that you can share the link for the viewers to go?
Now I don't have anything ready, so I'm shy to post anything. Okay. But
I'm the same. I have the same problem. I write and then I don't publish. So I understand the feeling.
Okay, but let's decide, because this is something that might be interesting for some people. Let's decide that we both are going to share it at some point. Okay.
All right. Let's do that.
Just to give you an update about Yerevan, since the 4th of May, most of the limitations are taken away about moving around. So now there is no need for filling in a paper, stating where are you going from to where and so on. All of this is gone, but still the state suggests to stay home as much as we can and keep social distancing. Not many people wear masks. I don't wear a mask because I was cycling and I didn't feel that I need it right now. But in general, when going into a store, a shop, I keep the rule, and perhaps 1/5 of the people keep the rule. This is the May 11th. Since the May 4th, we don't have much or most of the limitations anymore, which were before that, and so I don't need to write a paper about where I'm going and from where to where and when I'm going to return. All of this is not necessary anymore. There is no police on the streets, no control, and it's just when you go inside a building, you're asked to keep the social distance, sometimes also outside, but there's no police. And yeah, I have my mask, but I'm not wearing it right now because I'm away from people, and I'm going home. It's just by my house in Yerevan.
Thank you very much once again to participate.
Thank you very much too. And yeah, this was a nice chance for me too. I had a hard day and now I feel kind of like I'm rested, and I'm looking forward to maybe other meetings, and good luck with everything you do.
Thank you very much. What about you? What are your opinions on the matter? Do you have any experience you would like to share with us? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like what you see, you can support me by hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and help me becoming a full-time YouTuber by donating through the link in the video description. Thank you, and see you in the next video.